Welcome, everybody. Um, I first met our guest, Nick Bowyer. I don't know, was it 4 or 5 years ago, Nick? Erica alluded to the networking face-to-faces that we often do here. And we were in a breakout room. I think that's when Nick learned that I do consulting. And he was making a personal documentary. We wound up doing a lot of consulting together. The film got it was a special film, and ultimately I took on a role as producer on it. So I got to know Nick very well. It took a while before I learned he actually had a full-time job doing social media marketing, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we have kind of a nice announcement about My Omaha. That Nick, why don't you welcome and tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. It's great to be back in the D word. Yeah, the face to faces have always been a helpful and welcoming place for me. I think it was 2020, actually, right at the beginning, Doug, when I joined these and met you. So it's been 6 years.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, and some of you might have been here when me and Leo joined to do a deep dive on My Omaha. I think last fall. I think it's on YouTube if you guys
Yeah,
want
it's on
to.
our D Word YouTube channel. It was a great
Yeah.
one.
But yeah, very excited to share. This is probably the most public format we've shared this news yet, is we got acquired by Independent Lens. So the movie's going to play on PBS in the future, and could not have done it without the help of so many people. Doug being one of the primary helpers on that. So yeah, we're super pumped, and it's a great success story for a small film to just keep chugging along until it got, till it broke through. So we couldn't be happier.
And one of the great parts about it is that it not only plays on PBS but simultaneously on their YouTube channel, which we're really excited by because then we could do all sorts of social media ads, right, Nick?
Yeah, well, that and like just, you know, and some of you have probably felt this before. You get asked all the time, where can I watch the film? How can I watch the film? And for a long time, you don't have a good answer for it when you're trying to like hold out for the right distribution opportunity, all this. But like, it's going to be such a relief when it's on YouTube for free to be like, look, blast it out far and wide. Anyone who wants to watch it can watch it and comment and share it. And like, that is where the audience is these days, YouTube. It's like, especially people that aren't watching lots of movies, they are still watching YouTube. So we're super super stoked about that, and I think that's kind of the future of distribution, is those kind of direct channels. So yeah, can't wait.
We are excited, and we will be talking more about it in the upcoming days. But let's get to the topic at hand. And by the way, folks, Nick will do some demoing, share screening, and take you through the process. As he likes to say, go under the hood of social media marketing. But I want to leave a lot of time for your questions, hopefully the last half. So if you have a question to ask of this, when the time comes, as Erica said, use the raised hand function. We'll start calling on you. But a few questions first, Nick, before you go into your demo. And, some things that I've always wondered. I mean, I go on social media and I see these ads, these paid ads, and it always makes me wonder what what the right time is to start putting up social media ads. I mean, if you're trying to build your social media presence, is that too early? Or do you want to wait until the film is at a certain stage? What do you recommend there?
Yeah, I think that the calculus you want to make before investing in paid advertising is waiting until you have a revenue generating opportunity. So that can span a spectrum of things based on where your film is at. So if you're fundraising, that is an opportunity for paid ads because you're creating a a circumstance where you're going to be trying to bring in money with those ads. Um, or if you are doing a tour, if you're doing a theatrical run, if you are selling tickets, if you are doing a TVOD release and people are, doing a transaction, that's another kind of window of opportunity. Um, I think it's also helpful to understand the different types of media and where paid media sits in that. Like really there's three types of exposure for your film in the media landscape. Um there's earned media, which is like when you get reviews or what, when people comment about your movie. There's owned media, which is like organic social media. So that's when you're actually like just posting to a existing audience. And then there's paid media, the amount of money that you put into a system is creating exposure and impressions for you. And my philosophy is always that if you're going to actually put dollars into something like advertising, it should be in a situation where you can get dollars back. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get some value out of ads when there isn't that kind of income opportunity. If you have a marketing budget and you just want to get followers, if you just want to let people know about a movie or kind of hype something up, you can absolutely do that. But most filmmakers, have really tight budgets and like really have to be disciplined about how they spend it. So that's sort of my philosophy when it comes to when and what circumstance. So
You might be covering this in the demo, but can you give us a sense of what it costs to, what are the different pay options for paid advertising?
well, there really aren't any minimums. I mean, there are if you really want to make it worth your time, but like anyone can, set up a Facebook Ads Manager account and put in as much money as they want, for example, into ads. However, the way that these systems work is they work the best when they have kind of a sustained amount of money for a period of time because all of these things are powered by algorithms. Just like if anyone who spends time on Instagram or Facebook, you learn how the algorithm gets to know you and it starts to send you content that you like. The ads work the same way. When you put in the audiences who you want to target, and I'll kind of get into how you can do that, you might have an idea of who you think is going to be good for your ads. But after that campaign runs for the third week, the fourth week, and the system is measuring kind of what's working and what's not, it adjusts those audience targeting because that algorithm is working in your favor for the ads. So I think more important than dwelling on how much money you should put in, it's really giving yourself enough time to have the campaign run and give you feedback. So one of the things that I do with filmmakers is kind of consult on the timing of a campaign and also how much money they should put in based on their budget, based on what their goal is, because they can kind of be different for every circumstance.
So give us an idea. I mean, what is a good, healthy time frame to think about doing it? You don't, that isn't just like compressed and putting up a few ads.
Well, I think 2 month campaign is a really solid amount. It's kind of right in the middle. I think you can do a month and be okay. But with when you do like 2 months, the first month is like a discovery period. It's like a learning period. You run these ads for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and you look at the data and you say, okay, what did we learn here? What age group is responding favorably to these ads? What market geographically is engaging more than we thought? And then once you have a sample like that, you can actually make more deliberate manual changes to be like, we're going to shift more ad spend in this direction. We're going to favor this specific video ad instead of this one because it's just doing better. So I think 2 months is a good run time. But like if you're doing, let's say like a campus tour, where you're going to be bringing the film somewhere for like, 3 or 4 months, you can really kind of keep that thing on during the whole tour, and just put it at the way you can do these ad spends is you can set like a daily amount or a campaign amount, so it averages out for a certain amount of time to kind of keep a ceiling on it. And then that way the system's continually learning the whole length of your campaign.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued by this idea of how it finds your audience, particularly for a film like My Omaha, which is, something we think appeals to pretty much everyone who has a heart and two eyeballs. But it's so my guess is that I think it's time for you to do the demo because I'm sure all this stuff is covered by it. I, I don't want to like be talking about it when you could be kind of doing a show and tell. So
Yeah, sure, I can pull things up. I'll say like before that too, what I'm going to be showing people is specifically meta ads. So that is referring to Facebook and Instagram. That is really the biggest powerhouse in social media marketing. I mean, the majority of people are reachable through Meta. But that's not the only channel that you can do paid ads through. You can do Google. That's the second probably most recommended one I'd say for filmmakers because Google has YouTube, Google has display ads on websites and stuff. Um, LinkedIn has ads, Reddit has ads, TikTok has ads, Pinterest has ads. I mean, Amazon has ads. I mean, it's kind of endless. But when you're a filmmaker, especially an indie filmmaker, and you have a sort of limited budget, I think like Meta is step one. If you get success out of Meta and can master that, you can I think graduate to other ad forms. But just so I could set the stage, that's going to be the platform that we're going to talk about. So allow me to share my screen here. Okay. Can
yeah,
everybody see that? Okay. So, first things first is when you do a paid ads campaign, you need to have a couple things. You need to have a Facebook or a Meta business portfolio. Some of you maybe created that before, but basically it's like the infrastructure that allows you to do ads. Um, and what's kind of interesting about that is it's different than the actual ads manager, which is another tab that I'll get to. But this is where like you can link your Facebook and Instagram together. So when you make posts or you make ads, that they do it together. So you can see like for me, this is my Omaha page, and you can see it's linked to the My Omaha Instagram. Um, this is like it sounds very basic, but one of the biggest hurdles to actually doing these ads is making sure that all of your accounts are linked up properly. And this stuff can get kind of confusing because you got if you made your film's Facebook page like 10 years ago, maybe it was a producer you're not working with anymore, all that ownership stuff can get really messy. So I would encourage people to be very just thoughtful about when they set these accounts up. There's often a kind of trickle down effect. So within the business manager, there are ad accounts that take you to ads manager. And this is what um, the ads manager level looks like. So these platforms like are very intuitive and they have a ton of tabs and they're very confusing. And there's a reason why in most cases these type of platforms campaigns are really managed by ad agencies and like people that have experience in the weeds with these things because they're just there's lots of settings and lots of things that are getting changed all the time. But I'm going to show you guys a little bit of like what it looks like and kind of how it translates, so it's not so much of a mystery. within Ads Manager, when you have a campaign, there are kind of three different levels to it. There's your literally like your campaign level. And I'm going to show you guys an example for a campaign I ran for a film festival. There is what I call, or what they call, an ad set level, and that is kind of just another way of like your audience level, where you break out your campaign and your budget by audience type. So in this case, a national audience, which is where we're targeting the United States, industry audience, where we're targeting filmmakers, regional audience, where we're targeting people just within like the Pacific Northwest, and then retargeting and lookalike. And I'll talk more about those, but those are like uh, pixel based audiences where we're actually targeting people that we've been tracking through website engagement and things like that. And then there's your ads level, and this is where you actually look at and see um, the ad itself. And I'm going to go into that in more detail, but let's go inside one of the ad sets, because this is where you actually kind of form uh, the infrastructure of your campaign's targeting. So I'm going to punch in a little bit so that everyone can see this, but let me know. Is that good? Should I punch in more? Can you guys read? Can you read this text okay?
I think so.
Okay. So the first things first, when you're doing these campaigns, is you want to establish a goal. And in many cases, for a filmmaker, that's going to be getting people to a certain landing page or a website link. So getting people to your film's website where they can go and do whatever action you want them to do, whether that's buy a ticket for a screening or rent the film on a TVOD platform. So setting your conversion as send traffic to your website, is sort of like the default goal. Um, the budget is something that what I like to do with my campaigns is set a campaign level budget and allow the system to be flexible with how it spends, but amongst the audiences. One of the things that I learned when I ran campaigns for my previous day job, which was within the travel industry, was that if you try to force campaigns to spend money towards certain audiences, you really then neutralize the intelligence that the algorithms give you, um, because it's not adapting based on the response rate. But if you tell the system, hey, you know, I'm going to allow you to spend $50 a day, spend it as efficiently as you want between, let's say, like, you know, uh, 18 to 24-year-old skateboarders and like, 30 to 40-year-old doctors. I'm just saying an arbitrary example, but like, let it spend naturally based on the response rate. You're taking advantage of the technology as opposed to thinking that you know better than it. And I think that um, running these campaigns as sort of fluidly and flexibly as possible is sort of the mindset you want to have. Down here is sort of where the audience targeting comes into play. So if you look at here where I say detailed targeting for our industry audience set that we did, um, I targeted people who have an interest in filmmaking, people whose employers are within the film industry, job titles that include production company, film producer, film director, film crew. So basically, what you can do here is select profiles of people where their interests or their demographics or their jobs basically correlate to a certain thing. Um, and sometimes you have to get creative in this department because Facebook doesn't always allow you to hit a niche that you might want to. So to give you an example, I'm working on a film right now that is about dementia and folks who are trying to kind of navigate that with loved ones who have it. And if you go into the targeting search function and type in dementia or type in Alzheimer's, nothing will come up. But if you type in neurology, or if you type in, geriatrics, or you type in those sort of other terms, you can kind of more or less craft a targeting profile based on, what you're looking for. So in some cases, depending on what the subject of your film is, you have to get creative about your targeting.
Nick, is it a simple matter to change the targets or change the locations as you go along in the campaign?
Yeah, so it's very easy to do that. So like, this campaign is not running anymore, but I can still go in here and edit it. And as you see here, I can, edit the age, I can edit the locations. Um, and also this is where I can edit the targeting. One thing that I'll notice, one of the things you see within Meta all the time is this term called Advantage Plus. What Advantage Plus is basically Meta's like AI technology where they're going to be like, basically how it works is they'll be like, hey, thanks for inputting your audience data. We're going to put on this thing called Advantage Plus where we think we know who you want to target. And so we're going to go target whoever we want. And they do the same thing Advantage Plus for your ads. We're like, hey, thanks for putting together your ad, but we think we know how it looks better, so we're going to change it up. And it's very, very frustrating because it will automatically enable this Advantage Plus function. And you kind of have to decide based on how sensitive you are about your film and your content about if you want it to do this or not. You can go in and you can turn off this Advantage Plus thing and basically just only serve the ads to exactly the inputs you want. Or you can be like, look, do whatever you want, turn it on, go target whoever you want, go change the ads and whoever you want, like literally, edit the copy. It depends on kind of how precious you are about, how your film is represented, but it's one of the things that makes these campaigns very challenging is that Meta is always changing stuff, and you always have to keep an eye on it because even if you think you've gone through and inputted everything perfectly and you double checked and triple checked your work, these systems change on a dime, and so you have to kind of have a hawk's eye about things.
Nick, you mentioned trust the algorithm, but now you're saying don't trust so there's a difference between the algorithm and the AI.
Well, the algor you're gonna get an algorithmic experience even if you don't enable Advantage Plus. I would say that there's sort of like tiers, it's like any type of ad campaign is going to be using an algorithm. Letting this, enabling the Advantage Plus across the board is sort of like algorithm unchained. So it's it depends on sort of your comfort level. Like what I basically do on the campaigns I've managed for my clients is I enable this Advantage Plus for audience targeting, but I don't enable it for the ads because I want to have more control over how the ads look. So yeah, that's the balance. And I can pivot to showing people what the ads look like now so they can kind of understand what that looks like, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
So what we were just in is what I called the ad set. And if you look under here, um, you have all of our ads. And when you upload an ad to Meta and create the ad, and I'm using a video ad for an example. What it does is it's gonna show you how that ad will look in all of these different formats. So um, if we go here, this is how this video ad will look on an Instagram mobile feed. You see this vertical video, you see learn more is the tagline, um, the text down here. But if we toggle this here, we can go and see, you know, okay, well, how will this work if it were an Instagram reel, you can see how, this is a little bit of a different format. Um, the learn more comes up a little bit differently. The text is a little bit differently. Let's see how it looks in a story, Instagram mobile story. You can see how that expiration bar at the top goes up. So um, that is sort of how it looks. And I'm going to go into one of these and edit um, and add so you can see. Um,
Nick, while you're doing that, a question. You mentioned you don't want AI dealing with the ads themselves. In what way would they deal with them?
well, one of the functions that the AI can do when it's enabled on the ad level is it can actually change the language and the copy of your ad. So,
Really?
yeah, so when that is occurring, and I'm going to stop my share while I just get into an ad real quick. Um, so basically, like, let's say, and this can be a problem if you're, for example, on this dementia campaign that I'm doing. You want to make sure that your language around a topic that is medical is very accurate, right? So you don't want an AI to be, manipulating the copy of your ad based on just what it thinks is going to get people more engaged. And one of the things that you need to do with these campaigns is you have to remember that it's thinking like a machine. So the machine is thinking, I'm going to get as many people to click on this ad and go and send people to this person's website as I possibly can. But its tactics might not translate to the most like authentic or the most genuine of content. Like someone who is most likely to click might not be someone who's most likely to actually um, rent a movie or buy a ticket or something, right? So you kind of have to put your own safeguards on these systems because, they're operating on just a sort of machine minded level. I'm going to pull up a um, spreadsheet that actually shows um, what it looks like to put in ad content. But is there any other kind of questions based on the targeting I can answer while I do that?
Does anybody out there have a question on that? If you do, just come right out and ask.
It looks like there's one in the chat. What
I
if
do
Meta runs
also.
through AI and doesn't like the subject matter of your film? Can it throttle you the same way it does if you post publicly, even if you've paid? Thinking about films in particular about Palestine.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that it's gonna ultimately still try to find when you put money behind it, it's gonna fulfill that obligation of spending the money and therefore finding people and translating it to impressions. So it's still gonna find those people. It may be uh less likely to kind of hit the like if you're doing a reel, it might not be part of the zeitgeist kind of reel that could go viral. But one of the things that I've found with doing these campaigns and a tip that I give people is that you want to be posting organically also while you are doing paid ads because the system I think rewards active profiles too. I've run some campaigns where the accounts kind of sit empty and it's like they have no posts, but yet they're running tons of ads. And I think the problem with that is if someone sees your content, they may be like, okay, I'll follow this page and might be, kind of get some updates, but then they'll see there's no content and they'll be like, well, I don't know if I'm going to follow now. So I think that, like I said at the top, when it comes to your overall media strategy, paid media is a component that should go in conjunction with doing earned media, doing organic social media, and everything else. So
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
This is Connie.
Yeah.
Nick, I tried this a while ago. This is specifically that you're targeting the audience. I did paid ads, and I see you chose a lot of people involved in production and filmmakers. I chose who I thought my core audience was, the women, teachers, people living with disability. And when I chose that core audience as a demographic, I got totally irrelevant followers. I got a lot of men who were into, let's say, salacious photos of little girls, because I had children in it. So I stopped doing them.
yeah, I mean, I would say that goes back to like you do have to kind of have some safeguards around monitoring like the response rate on the ads and what type of people are engaging it for maybe unintended purposes. Like I'll give you an example too, that I was so for this campaign I was doing, that medical oriented campaign, the film was doing a TVOD release that was global, so I decided to just open up the targeting globally at the very beginning. But if you allow a system as big as Meta to target anyone in the world, and its goal is to get as many clicks and views as possible, it's going to attract things like bot traffic. It's going to, people that are like basically fake Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts. Like you can just open yourself up to tons of junk. So I think, in your case, Connie, like what you could do is like, notice that and maybe like target women only, on your campaign, or make certain age edits or other kind of things so that, that type of response that you're getting that is not appropriate can be kind of more manually filtered. And there are like,
Adjust my targets.
sorry. Yeah.
Just
Adjust
asking
my
if-
target.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nick, that sort of asks me or makes me wonder, how do you know what audience it's actually reaching? You can put in what your target audience is, but how do we know it's only going to like pedophiles or something? Is there a way, do they have analytics about who?
Yeah, when you look at the reporting, it's all aggregated, so and it's anonymized. So you're not seeing, exactly like the names of people who are seeing the ad, but you are able to kind of get some visibility into, okay, where do these people live? What is their age demo? Like what other, kind of factors are they? From a info and demographic perspective. So, I think there's brand safety settings on these campaigns naturally that try and, eliminate, people who you don't want engaging with your content to follow it. And I haven't had a ton of negative experiences in that department, but like, what you can do is you can kind of like monitor, like, okay, are there people commenting or sharing these that like don't seem like the right person? You can go and you can block them, or you can report them, and you can kind of do things that's teaching the system to like maybe not that's not the type of person you want to go after.
Is that how you can tell your campaign is working, by the number of comments and likes?
Sometimes, yeah. I think that what's unique about films when it comes to paid media is that when your trailer or like a clip from your movie hits the right person, it doesn't really feel like an ad. It feels like, oh, like this is a new movie, like, oh, like this is up my alley, and people share it. And I think that that's a measure of success, is that, so people aren't sharing ads when they get ads for like Crest toothpaste, you know what I mean? But like they see a film that like really touches them and they share it as content. Like that is a measure of success to me. um but when someone gets your ad and they click that ad and they go to your website, maybe they buy a ticket, they maybe didn't like that story or share it or follow you, but they still went and they did action. And that is something you can see in the reporting, uh as a measure of success, that actually isn't something as simple as like just seeing a like or a share or a comment or something.
Uh, is there anything else you wanted to be demoing? Uh,
Well, yeah, kind of on that note, I wanted to share a what some of the analytics look like, kind
mhm.
of dovetailing to what you were saying, Doug.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
great.
and this is for the kind of uh, campaign that I was showing you guys the ad set for. Um, the way that I broke this down for the client was looking at, um, the total amount of impressions served, the total amount of link clicks, and then also looking at how many people liked the Facebook page who saw the ad, how many people followed the Instagram, and what were the total landing page views, which is, that was sort of the measure of success I wanted to stress to them, was like, look, for the money that we invested in this campaign, all the people that we reached, we saw 7,700 visits to your website from these ads, where people could go and buy festival tickets and festival passes and things like that. Um, I broke it down by market for them so we could see um, kind of what the click-through rate or CTR was for different markets. So that's basically like the percentage of people who saw the ad and clicked it. And like this festival was in Oregon, so like a ton of regions in that, or cities in that area performed the best. But like if you scroll down, like surprisingly, like Boston had like a 8% click-through rate. It was like triple some of the other closer markets. So can I actually give you some insight into maybe where your film or your whatever might actually have hidden relevance or hidden uh kind of power that you wouldn't otherwise think of. This is
Nick, what's considered a good click-through rate? 2%, 3%?
it's a good question. Like the kind of like industry benchmark standard for Meta is like kind of like 2 to 5% for video ads. Um, when it comes to like really good, compelling film content, I've seen upwards of 10 to 15%. Like the My Omaha click-through rates when we did ads in Chicago were like 15%. So you can get pretty high up there. It's sort of just, and I will say the click-through rate will go down the more money that you're putting into it, because it's reaching a wider audience, and just by its nature, like you're going to have probably a smaller, less efficient click-through rate, but that's because you're opening up your targeting on a much kind of wider level.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry if you already answered this, but what's the difference between click-through rate and link click?
so CTR basically is like the percentage of people who saw the ad and clicked it. And then there's like a summary. The link clicks itself is like someone who actually clicked like the link you put into the ad. Um, Whereas CTR all is like they clicked any part of the ad basically. So it's like a more hyper specific version of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And like one of the things that you can do within the platform too is try and push the system to favor maybe Facebook more, Instagram more. One of the things within Meta ads is that like there's all these little areas that you wouldn't think have ad capabilities, but like WhatsApp, for example, like ads can be served through WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Facebook Marketplace. Like, if we kind of go back to this level, you can see like there are so many different types of ways that these ads can come across. And in some cases, that's good. And in some cases, you might be like, you know what? I only want to reach people within Instagram's main feed. And so you can go in and you can deselect everything except that. But the downside is that you're going to probably have a lower amount of clicks and lower amount of website traffic, but it kind of goes back to that question of being the human that is trying to quality control the machine to be like, okay, um, is it, do I want to go in and make sure I'm only serving on like these versions of the social media platforms that I trust that are good, as opposed to like all my ads showing up in like random Facebook Marketplace positions where, yeah, maybe they're going to get clicked, but they're not by valuable people. That's sort of some of the, I would say, like quality control work that you kind of have to do sometimes to just not let the system run wild.
Right. Folks, it's time where you can start asking questions. So do what Kelly just did, and Tommy, yes, use the raised hand function, and we'll call on you whenever there's a break in what Nick is saying. Um, Before those questions, though, Nick, I'm still trying to get a handle on cost.
Mhm.
What, you mentioned a good campaign is about 2 months long, you think? You said to try, maximize it by doing it when some revenue is coming back. But let's say my film is about to premiere at a nice film festival. That's not generating revenue, but I want to generate attention. So what would you suggest? How long a campaign and what might that campaign cost?
When I work with filmmakers, I try to recommend a minimum of $500 in media spend per month. I think that that's enough to make it worth all of the time that is required for the setup and the strategy um and everything that goes into it. No, you could do it for less if you had to, like you could boost posts for like a couple hundred per post. But if I were doing like a big premiere event, I would put in at least $500 for that first month, and then maybe keep it going for the second month if you have more screenings and more showtimes at that level, and you can increase the cost from there if you're seeing a good return.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mhm.
Kelly.
Honestly, that was my question. You just took it. So thank you. That's great.
My telepathic abilities, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your question. Appreciate it. Tommy.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for doing this today. So I've got a question in terms of like the content that you're creating, which was most effective. Did video work well? Was it a reel? Was it a static image, carousels? What? And then obviously like that call to action is the entire point, right? And I just wonder if you could speak to like, it looks like those calls to action are you only have so many choices, correct?
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to dive into the ads as well, but you're right. So you can put in five different headlines and five different body descriptions to an ad and let the system choose amongst them.
Mhm.
And then you only have a certain amount of actual call to action choices, and it's like buy now, learn more. There's like, a group of them, and you can typically find one that is applicable to your situation. Um, I video content is by and large the highest performing type of content for anyone, but particularly for filmmakers because they have a visual product. Um, you know, it runs a spectrum of of what will work. Like I ran my trailer as an ad just as its horizontal version, and
Mhm.
it's done very well. Um, what for the filmmakers that I work with on a consulting level, I try and get them to create a vertical 30-second representation of their ad because that the system will really prioritize that type of format and also that type of length. Um, and so I think that that's a very effective kind of end result, but really anywhere in between that will work for ads. Also, if you're able to create like a type of video content that kind of feels like influencer speaky, like, I'm not a big fan of this type of content, but like
Right.
everyone knows that type of style where like there's the way the text is, the way that's narrated over it. Like if you're able to kind of like imitate that, that can work
Mhm.
for ad as well. So good
Thank,
question.
thank you so much.
Of
Great.
course.
Thanks, Tommy. Fernanda, wh- where did you go? Um,
I'm here.
yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Nick, for this. Very insightful, especially because I'm on the other end of the spectrum when the film is being created and written. So to go in the underbelly, it's very interesting. How many? You talk about reels videos, but how many and how varied, or you want to focus on one type and hammer it? So how many assets do you need, all combined, reels, videos, etc.?
It's a good question. I think you can, if you have one, solid video ad or piece, you can get a lot of mileage out of that. Like I think what's more important in some ways is having different kind of technical outputs and specs for those videos so that they can play every type of format. So like you want to have the right dimensions so it can play as an Instagram story and also as like a Facebook feed ad. And like those are different sizes. So if you have like one really good 1 minute video or 30-second video, you just want to make sure that you have all the right outputs for that. Um, I think actually in some cases, like you can have too much content. Like you don't want to be putting out like 10 video ads because that every time you create an audience ad set in Meta, you have to duplicate all the ads for that ad set, and you could end up running like 100 ads, and then the system is like a little bit bogged down. So sometimes less is actually more.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fernanda. Joanne.
Hi, Nick. This is very interesting because I'm wondering about some of the films I'm working on. But my question is, when I use, for instance, Chat GPT to help me write a script, it'll give me uh, some copy, and then I look at it and decide I want to change it, and then I change it, and I keep massaging it until I like it. Can you do that with ads too? Can you test what they come up with and then change it and then retest it before you actually post it?
So when you like allow their AI advantage plus like system to optimize creatives, it will show you what it's changing. And you can edit it and you can kind of say yes or no to it. I think what's a little bit risky about that though is that it's always live, so it's not going to be a perfect filter system. But you do have the visibility. It kind of is like, how much time do you want to spend continually going in and checking the system and what it's changing? But so I think it's a better move to basically give it the 5 headline options, the 5 description options that you like, and just making it stick to that as opposed to like letting it tweak it. And it's actually a good segue, because I did find something I did want to share with everyone real quick, which is a little bit more explanation of how that copy works. This is like a spreadsheet that I give my clients, where basically all of the fields for an ad are inputted. So you have your primary text, which has 50 to 150 length character requirement, and this is like the kind of like the real pitch that you're going to be able to give about your film. You have the headline, which is, speaks for itself, and then you have that description, which is what that earlier question was alluding to, which is like, you only have call to action. This is where these are the buttons where you have a sort of fixed options of what you actually want people to do. And then you have your display URL, and you actually have the actual URL. So these are kind of all of the different pieces that go and build up your ad. And what I was alluding to earlier is you can put 5 of these into Meta, 5 of these into Meta, and kind of allow them to mix and match, kind of what's working. So,
Nick, has anybody hired you to do this kind of campaign for a crowdfunding campaign? And if so, did they find that it helped?
yeah, I just kind of came on board one where they have already been running a crowdfunding campaign that's doing pretty well, and I'm kind of coming on to try and help them grow it. I think that when doing this for crowdfunding, you also really have to have strong organic content as well, because a lot of your donations are coming from people that are engaging with your film multiple times. They're following it, and then they're seeing follow-up posts and all this type of stuff. So yes, I think putting money behind something where you're raising funds is a good call, but it can't be the only thing too.
Daniel.
Hi, thank you so much, Nick. This is really interesting. I also work in digital marketing with documentaries, and I wanted to raise a point that people are bringing up in the comments about ads getting rejected or their accounts getting shut down. And I'll share just really briefly about my experience with this, and then really curious to hear your own. But with after the 2016 elections, Meta got a lot of flack for allowing other countries to influence the results of our elections, and so they put in place a lot of really strict rules around advertising, including if your ads in any way could be affecting public opinion around social issues or political issues, they need to have a disclaimer saying who's paying for these ads, and you have to prove that you reside in the country where these ads are running. At least in the United States, that's the rule. I think it varies from country to country based on local laws. And even things that, you might not think are social issues. I've worked on campaigns regarding reproductive rights, campaigns that show a political figure but aren't necessarily taking a stance. Those still fall under Meta's rules. So, and that process can take some time to prove your location, where you live. You have to like send in a physical letter in the mail. So anyway, I just wanted to set expectations around the length of time that can take to set up, and making sure you have those rules in place so you don't accidentally break the rules.
Daniel, does your social media work differ significantly from Nick's, or is it pretty much kind of what he's been doing?
Yeah, a lot similar to what Nick's talking about, doing both organic and paid social. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Daniel. I
Yeah.
mean, I think like one of the issues in general is that creative rejections and creative flags can also happen for what feels like unexplained and arbitrary reasons in the system like all the time. So there's things that you can definitely be mindful of in advance, but also there's like moments where I've had ads get rejected because you know they didn't feel like I had proof that I was like capable of selling tickets or something. And it's like, well, guys, I've been running this campaign for a month. What are you talking about? Now you're shutting it off? Like weird hiccups like that will happen all the time. And different countries have different rules for this too. Like Australia has like very strict rules around anything financial oriented from a marketing perspective. And so, yeah, I think that's a very valid thing to raise, especially if you're engaging outside of the US and also if you have anything that's political for sure.
Daniel, feel free to use the chat to put your contact info in and contextualize it for people who will see the chat later in the week or something, what it is that you do, so that it's not just a link floating around. But thanks for doing it. Nick, in the same way, when you have a moment, put your contact info in, because Nick obviously does consulting. That's basically what he's doing full time now when we're not doing deliverables to Independent Lens and charming things like that. Christine, you are up.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the film also. It's wonderful, My Omaha. Two sort of related questions. One is you mentioned, ad spend is $500 a month. Does that include like you participating in that? If not, how does that work? And then my other question is, before getting into social media marketing, what should we be doing so that we're teed up when the time comes?
Yeah, so when I work with filmmakers, for my services, I charge a flat fee based on the length of the campaign and also what channels we're running on. And so it's kind of a case by case basis. But the reason I do that is all of the costs are upfront and there's no surprises. There's other people in the industry will sometimes work on a percentage basis of like the total media budget or media spend. But the reason I don't like to do that is I want to be able to objectively comment and recommend media spend without there being any conflict of interest. So that's kind of how I work. I would say to your second question, like, having accounts created for your film where you have ownership of them is important. So having an Instagram account, having a Facebook account, and starting to build that audience out is helpful. I think having a website for your film is like kind of is a necessity as well, because you want to be able to ultimately drive people there. So one thing I should talk about, because this is it made me think of it, is that with your ads, you can drive people wherever you want from a landing page perspective. Like if you're doing a run at, let's say, IFC Cinema, you can send people directly to an IFC landing page where they can buy tickets. But the problem is, because you don't own the IFC website, you're not actually going to see how many people went and bought tickets or did anything. But if you are running a campaign where you're sending people to your website, you can place a pixel on that website, and you can actually serve ads to people that have already been to that website. It's called retargeting. And it's one of the most effective methods of doing advertising because it's really that second, third, and fourth exposure that often leads to someone making a choice and making a decision. Also, then when that pixel starts to accumulate more people, when it measures that, okay, 500 people have gone to this website, 1,000 people, 2,000, it can also create what's called a lookalike audience, which is when Meta scans all that user data and then goes and finds people, out, in their database that they think are like those people. So having a website and having the tracking set up for it is also a great thing to have in advance. So when I know I'm working with someone, one of the first things I want to do is I want to try to get access to the website so we can get that pixel placed and start measuring data as just another audience tool at our disposal.
Okay, thank you so much.
Nick, when you're consulting, how often do you report back to your clients, and kind of with updates?
I try to do a weekly little check-in, and then more of a monthly kind of like analytical reporting situation. I've found that when you make changes to the campaign or optimizations, what they call it, it usually takes a week for those to show up in any meaningful way. Like if you make a change today, looking at it tomorrow and judging its effectiveness is not enough time. So that's kind of the cadence I've worked on.
Great. Gary.
Hi, Nick. I've seen your film. I think it's excellent.
Thank you.
When you showed the examples of your ads, they just kind of breezed by. They all appeared to be verticals. Did you never do anything horizontal? Because all of our films are horizontal medium, and I know that that social media is largely a vertical arena, but what exactly you're using to convert your trailer or whatever into vertical? Is there a specific program you're using?
It's a good question. So I have ran horizontal ads. You can do that. And often I'll run both vertical and horizontal. So it's not a total disqualifier, but you'll notice that when you do run vertical content side by side with horizontal, the system is going to absolutely favor vertical. I mean, I have made vertical content by just going into Premiere and switching the aspect ratio to vertical specs and reframing the content accordingly. It's never perfect because our movies are horizontal, right? And like there's always going to be awkward cropping sometimes. That's why like I think the shorter the content is more vertical focused, whereas like an entire trailer that's 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes vertically can sometimes lead to some awkward cropping. So that's a good rule of thumb. I mean, you can, I think, probably use video editors on your phone or on Instagram to do it as well. But I think the cleanest way would be to go back to wherever you edited it in the first place and change the specs vertically.
Do you have to do it shot by shot, or will it, when you go into Premiere Avid and you select a vertical range, will it just take your trailer and show you what you're going to get without doing anything to it?
Well, I think it depends on what your sources you're editing from. Like if you're editing like a color graded master of a trailer, you might have to go in shot by shot and manually change the aspect ratio. I've done that before, but I'm not an editor. Like I'm kind of an amateur when it comes to using the editing software. So someone who's more of an editor might know a more efficient way to do it.
And there's some There's some suggestions in the chat.
Yeah.
It might be helpful.
Yeah. Some say yes, some say no.
One of the things that when I work with filmmakers is if they don't have any short form or vertical content, but they do have a trailer, I will price out a situation where we can get them like a 30-second clip made, out of their existing content, with one of the editors that I know. So,
Yeah. I mean, the suggestion in the chat is basically most editing systems will automatically reframe, but don't trust it to do a perfect job. So it may work on 30%, 50, 70% of them, but some you'll have to fix by hand. That seems to be the consensus. Thanks. Great question, Gary. Dana.
Hey, thanks, Nick. This has been incredibly helpful. I have more of a specific question to my film, Rescued Hearts. We actually have a virtual screening coming up that starts August 1st. We have a very large following on Instagram, Facebook, and we get tons of hits on our website, but we've never known how to effectively run a social media campaign. So we dipped our toe in the water. We threw, a couple $100 at it, but I'd like to be more intentional this round. So my first question is, do you think that between now and August 1st, it will end August 10th, where people can purchase their tickets? Do we have enough time to run an effective campaign over the next 3 to 4 weeks? And if so, what type of dollar amount do you think is appropriate? Like, should we budget $1,000 for this campaign? And what should we budget if we want somebody like you or somebody in the field to help us run the campaign? Because, we have some knowledge, but we don't know really how to see how effective things are, and how to adapt them quickly, because we wear all the hats on the team in addition to running all the customer
Dana,
service.
before Nick answers, do you have a really specific audience that you're trying to reach?
Yes, we know our audience. That's the thing. Like, we have figured it out from the beginning. We have an incredibly specific targeted audience. We would like to reach more than just them, of course, but we know our goal. We know the age range. We know the demographic. And we just want to do this really, really well. And we're willing to throw the money at it if we know that it's going to help people find us and purchase tickets for the upcoming screening. And retargeting is a great idea that we didn't really think about. So Wix, we have huge hits on our site, but we've never known, is that super effective? Is that what we need to approach this time? How to do this the best way.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of follow-up questions, and it might be able to help more if we chat one-on-one to give you some guidance on this. But what is this virtual screen? You said it's a virtual event, or is it an in-person event and is it a one-time thing, or is there multiple screenings?
Yeah, we're doing a one-time virtual event. Tickets available August 1st through the 10th. They'll have 30 days to click play, 48 hours to finish. It's on Kinema.
Okay.
And so this is our second time, and we had a very, very positive response to the last time we did this about 3 months ago.
And
without ads.
What's the ticket price? And
Sliding scale. $10 is the lowest. Suggested is 15, up to 100.
Oh, so if people pay more, it goes as like a donation, more or less?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And is it anyone in the US can watch this?
Anyone around the world. We don't have it geo-blocked. We have a very large global audience.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have time, I think,
Okay.
to do this. I would want to kind of look at your profiles and see what some of the existing content is before I give like comfortable recommendations around spend, or also around like
Okay.
other kind of tactics and things like that. But if you follow up with me and send like your website and your social media and stuff, I'd be happy to give some more insight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't see your contact info anywhere, so as
He
long
put
as
it
it's
in the email,
posted.
but he'll do it again while you explain to us in a sentence or two what your film is about, Dana.
It's about the healing power of the horse-human connection. We filmed over 2 years about the miracles, the mystery, and the science of healing with these horses, and what unfolded just blew our minds. So the film is going really well, and we just want to like really be intentional about this next virtual screening.
Yeah, I think I've heard of your film because you have worked with Show and Tell, right? And Keith and
Yeah, they did a case study on our success, and Kinema's about to release a Substack because we've just done some things incredibly well and are very excited to get the film out further, and would love some guidance. So I appreciate your willingness to let us know how to set ourselves up for success for this next round.
Great.
Truly.
His contact info is now in the chat once again.
Ah, brilliant. Thank you.
And good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
How you've gotten it to this point.
Thank you so much.
Thomas.
Hey, Doug.
Hey.
Yeah, you hear me? Thanks. Hello, Nick.
Hey.
My question's a little bit different. I've been producing a podcast series on neuroscience for the last 5 or 6 years, and we've tried various different social media strategies. Should we treat, and what would your take be for a recurring series? Do we treat it like a premiere every other week? Something new that to drive audience towards, or we've also tried it by just building up the brand identity and providing links to anything interesting in our back catalog over the last 100 and something episodes, or some mix there, or just coming out with fresh little bon mots of content, little one-liners or 30-second videos that are just fresh and have our name on them. What just spitball me a few ideas there. Well, it's different than a movie.
Yeah, for sure. I would say probably advertising just the show itself, and because a way to think about it is like the way that these ads work best is you're encountering new people for the very first time. So you really have to kind of educate them about who you are and what you have. So that would push me away from thinking about teasing out like episodes that are kind of in the middle or further along. I think you should kind of center it on like, this is who we are and what we do, and this is like a little bit of a taste and a snapshot of it. You can maybe tease if you have a new season or something like that. That is something I might suggest. But yeah, I think looking at it from the perspective of, okay, if I were giving someone an elevator pitch about my thing and they've never heard about me or this show or whatever this is, like, what do I want them to know? That's the type of mindset I would have with your messaging for the ad.
Yeah, we've toyed with the tying it to seasonal things. Like we have several shows about love and attraction that we would pitch around Valentine's Day, or we have an NFL's expert on concussion that we ran during the Super Bowl week. Those sometimes seem to get a little bit of a bump, but then it dissipates because each show is different.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the same host, the same light bulb moment. They're sort of like, oh, gee, I didn't know that. That's really cool. That's our brand is, gee, that's cool. I'm really glad to know that.
Yeah. Well, you can also, when you have a campaign and you have new episodes come out, you can extend it and add it and edit your audiences as the campaign grows, because let's say you have, a new episode coming out that has a sports focus. You can make a duplicate ad set on Meta, for example, and start to target sports people and start to send ads about your show to those folks. So there are different ways, that you can kind of update things as it goes along to get more niche, I think.
Now that's really helpful. I didn't realize that there was I knew it was fine grained. I didn't realize the data was that precise. Sports fans in Chicago under 35 kind of thing.
Yeah. It knows your neck size, your belt size, everything else as well.
Oh, that's just sizes that I don't want anybody to know about.
Thanks for the question, Thomas. Good, that was a good one. Linda, you're up.
Yes. Hey, hi, Nick, everybody. I actually have a couple of questions. One is to review retargeting. I missed exactly what that means, and you can talk about that in a minute. But my original question is we're doing a documentary for the disability community, and so we need to have accessibility features like audio descriptions and closed captions. So how does Meta help with that, or is that something we can, a tool we can count on for doing that in a reliable way?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So they do have closed captions functions that are auto-generating, and then you can also preview them and edit them and kind of, make sure that they're um, what you want and edit them. I also encourage a lot of filmmakers to burn in captions on their content and then you don't have to rely on those as well. So um, you have multiple options there. When it comes to audio descriptions, I'm not quite sure, but I imagine that there are functionalities for that too. Um, on your retargeting question, so what that is referring to is if you ever want to capture any data point on a website, you have to place what's called a pixel, which is a piece of code that's on the back end of your website. Um, Meta allows you to place a meta pixel where the people who go to your website can then become someone who you target on Meta. And this is possible because of what is called cookies. Like whenever you go on a website and you share your cookies with that, I mean, every website basically makes you give permission now manually.
Yeah.
But that's how this becomes possible is pixels are taking your cookie and then allowing you to be targeted. So, so when you place that pixel, it starts to fill up with user data over time, and that becomes an audience pool that then you can reach with ads, and that the system can scrape and create model audiences, which we call lookalike audiences, based on it being like, okay, I see that the people in this pool, make up X, Y, and Z type profile. Well, let's go then target those type of people over here in this data set. So it's like, a way of just trying to kind of learn more about your audience through the data that you capture.
So when it gives you the data, do you get a spreadsheet, or how is that presented?
It's all and it's all anonymous user data that's basically summarized by a total amount of pixel fires. So within Meta, it's called Events Manager is where your data sets lie, and you can see the average amount of daily, pixel fires, which could be anywhere from like, 20 or 25 if you don't have a very busy website to like hundreds or thousands. And then it'll also tell you like the total amount of sort of data captured, as well. So it's all everything how it works is you target by the pixel, you use the lookalike audiences from the pixel. You don't actually go into the data itself and do anything.
Okay.
It's all on a kind of summary level.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Linda. Erica.
Bear with me. I have to add myself, lower my hand. I'm multitasking. Yeah, I actually wanted to, first of all, thanks so much, Nick. This has been really helpful. There's been some discussion going on in the chat about, which I think is a bigger question, which is sort of the value of social media versus, stuff that we definitely have control over, which would be our own websites and mailing lists, newsletters, that sort of thing. So I wanted to kind of get a sense from you, because the challenge of social media, particularly Meta, is that it is so anonymous. You don't know specifically who is engaging. What would be some tips you have to kind of use ads to actually generate people, joining your mailing list, so that you can actually capture that information and be able to communicate with them in the event that, Facebook doesn't serve the algorithms later on?
Yeah, no, it's a very valid question. I mean, that's why I try to encourage filmmakers to connect the ads with their website so that they get ownership and capture the data themselves. And whether that's to a direct page where they sign up for a mailing list, or it's a page where they have links to then go click to say Amazon or iTunes or wherever to rent their movie, or then it's the page to click to the theater. It just is, yeah, it's giving you more control and more ownership over the process. Because yeah, if you're investing in money for these ads, what you should be getting back is engagement with an audience that you should be able to kind of hopefully retain and grow, right? Um, so that would be my suggestion, is not to rely wholly on the platforms or a third party website. I also think like remembering that like the ads are not a magic trick, in the sense that like getting someone to follow your account or getting someone to share your content is a win, and it's like a valuable result of the ads. It's like getting like hundreds of TVOD rentals is like not realistic from ads. Like and it's just simply because think about how few people do TVOD rentals in general. So it's like the ads, as good as they are, even if you're reading the right person, are not going to change something that's circumstantially not super common or effective, right? Um, so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you also can see the secondary benefits of it being an audience growing tactic, I think it's a really smart way to look at it.
Thank you. And just so you know, Doug, we're at time.
Yes, I have one final question to wrap up things. And it kind of goes hand in hand with a frustration we have of not being able to get the email addresses of people who are responding through ads and stuff. And one of the reasons, Nick, both you and I started a Substack in the past year was because every subscriber then goes and is added to our email list. First of all, I will invite you to put in the chat, like just what I'm doing, a link to our Substacks. But is it a worthwhile investment to use social media ads to go to a Substack as opposed to a film? Because people theoretically can become a paid subscriber.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it goes kind of back to what yeah, it could be effective, but it goes back to what is your tolerance level when it comes to the perceived ROI on a literal basis. Like if you put in $500 or $1,000 on paid ads to promote your Substack, are you going to get that back in subscriber revenue? Like probably not. But are you going to get more views on the posts? Are you going to get a few more followers and maybe a few subscribers? Hopefully more than a few. Yeah, for sure. So so much of the whole paid ads game is like it's a pay to play situation. Everything you're seeing on your phone or your feed probably has money behind it. So if you want to like stand out, it's kind of like part of the game that you have to play. So any type of venture where I feel like you really have a vested interest in growing it, there's totally value in it. And you can dip your toe in it and you can start slow and like and if you see it growing and you see it doing well, invest more. So and yeah, thank you for allowing me to plug the Substack. I put mine in the feed. I'd love if people subscribe, because I am kind of following in Doug's footsteps and really embracing Substack and talking about this kind of work. Like I have an old post you can go and read about like kind of the 5 key things about doing digital ads, but I'm also writing about the My Omaha release, distribution stuff, other creative things. So yeah. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. It would mean a lot.
We love shameless self-promotion. Yes, my Substack is focused on personal doc filmmaking, and first-person storytelling, producing for film, all of which is, therefore I am talking quite a bit about My Omaha as well in there, and will be again soon as we get into fall. Thank you, Nick. This was great. Hope you get a gobs of potential new clients, because you've hung your shingle out as a full-time freelancer now. I don't think you mentioned that you've left your social media job.
Yeah, so I worked a full-time job doing this kind of work while making My Omaha, and it was great to have that stability, and also to get the income, frankly, that I took from my job and deposited right into the movie. But now that, that movie's, kind of taken off and doing its thing, I realized I needed time more than I needed money for a little bit. And I also really wanted to find a way to work more with filmmakers and take the experience I gained from this industry into this kind of next chapter. So I've started my own business. I'm consulting with filmmakers and managing campaigns, setting them up, and helping out in this world. So if you heard any of this, and if feels like there may be a fit for your film, I'd be glad to talk with you or learn more about your movie and see if there's a good fit here.
Great. Thanks again for coming
My
on. This
pleasure.
was, as you can tell from the chat, very much appreciated by everybody.